Ozu Yasujiro, a master filmmaker known for his delicate depictions of everyday life. His work asks, how should we live now? Every decade, the British Film Institute releases a list of the greatest films of all time, compiled by directors from around the world. In 2012, Ozu's 1953 masterpiece, Tokyo Story, was voted number 1.
妙なもんじゃ。自分が育てた子供より、いわば他人のあんたの方が、よっぽどわしらに用してくれた。いや、ありがとう。
From 1927 to 1962, Ozu made 54 films. 37 of them can be seen today. I Was Born, But... a silent film in which 2 elementary school boys see something that shakes their faith in their father. Late Spring, the start of Ozu's legendary partnership with actor Hara Setsuko. An Autumn Afternoon, his last film, a humorous depiction of the life of an aging man, lonely and alone, after his daughter leaves home. Ozu was known for filming his actors from low positions without moving the camera. This unique technique came to be known as the Ozu style.
But 私が行ったら困りゃしな。
困ってもね、もうそろそろ行かないと。お前も24だからね。
そうよ。だからまだいいわよ。
しかしね、まだいいまだいいって言ってるうちにいつの間にか年を取るんだ。
The 2023 Tokyo International Film Festival honored Ozu's life and career. Fans crowded into screenings of his work and symposiums about his legacy. German director Wim Wenders was the head of the jury. He is an avowed Ozu acolyte.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor to be here with you on this very special autumn afternoon in Tokyo, celebrating the great and one and only master Ozu Yasujiro on the 120th anniversary of his death.
120 years after his birth, 60 years after his death, what does Ozu Yasujiro mean to us now? Ozu rose to prominence during the 1950s, known as the Golden Age of Japanese cinema. His films were popular and widely discussed. In Japan, he was known as a master filmmaker, but he was still largely unknown to the outside world. By contrast, Kurosawa Akira's work seemed to strike a chord with foreign audiences. He became the first Japanese director in the post-war era to win top prize at a film festival overseas. Yamada Yoji started his career as an assistant director at Shochiku, a major film company where Ozu also worked. He has gone on to direct 90 movies, including the 2002 hit Twilight Samurai and the popular Torasan series. What did he think of Ozu's movies at the time?
確かにオズ作品の美ってのはあるけども、それは日本人にしかわからないだろうと。これはお茶の間に座ってさ、お茶飲みながらこう内輪で風を送りながらね、世間話をするみたいな世界はね、日本人にしかわからないだろうというふうにもう決めつけてたね。これはね、黒澤明が真の侍を作るみたいな時代にさ、娘が嫁に行って寂しいみたいなさ、そんな映画は何だというふうに、僕ら思ってたし、またその手法的にも非常になんとかな、こう保守的でしょ。からカメラ動かない、ポジションがいつも低い、ワイプフェードアウト、そういうのは一切使わない、そういう新しい表現に全く挑まない人だった、この人はね。
Yamada eventually fell in love with Ozu's work in the 1980s when he rewatched Tokyo Story for the first time in many years. Tokyo Story follows an elderly couple from Hiroshima as they visit their children in Tokyo. Their own children treat them like a nuisance, but they are looked after warmly by the wife of their second son, who was killed in the war.
このシンプルな物語がどうしてこんなにこう最後に余韻が残るんだろうと。映画のテーマは間違いなくつまり親は結局最後には子供に裏切られていくんだと。そして孤独に、死んでいくんだ。非常に寂しい人生観だよね。でそんな映画をまだ40代の監督が作ってんだよな。でちょうどその頃かな、ベンダースという、ヨーロッパで有名な監督が非常に大作に見せられたって話を聞いてね、そうか、外国の人にも分かる、つまり茶の間の暮らしを描いた、そんなことじゃない、もっと小津安二郎独自の表現の世界っていうのがね、こう世界的にちゃんと通用するものとして実はあるし、そういうものはむしろ海外の人たちが最初に認めてくれたんじゃないかと。でそれを僕たちが知って本当かよと思ってびっくりしてる。
In the 1970s, Wim Wenders, an edgy, up-and-coming director, watched Ozu's work for the first time.
I saw them first in the mid-70s in New York, and they had English subtitles. Later, when I traveled to Tokyo 2 years later in 77, at the Japanese Film Institute, they had other prints of Ozu's work, but they were not subtitled and they didn't have a translator for me. And I put the films myself on the editing table and I saw them all by myself, without subtitles, without translator. And I felt, and I'd seen 10, 12 movies, and on the second day I felt I spoke Japanese. I didn't miss anymore the idea that I needed to understand. I understood anyway.
Ozu's films tackled themes familiar to people around the world. His perceptive gaze resonated with Wenders, who said Ozu quickly became his North Star.
Relations between children and parents, the relation between children and the leftover parent if father or mother dies, and the responsibility of, let's say, a daughter towards the father who is living alone and she's not leaving the house in order to take care of her father. These stories are very contemporary. They are everyday stories of every family. Or the grandparents who get lonely. I mean, he shows the essence of family life.
A rare recording of Ozu speaking to a radio program in 1961 provides some insight into his filmmaking.
こう愛情が持てないものはあまり取り上げたくないわけですよ。まあ1年に500本も映画ができる中でね、1本ぐらいそういう写真があったってね、いいじゃないか。
How did Ozu make his films? Acclaimed actor Okada Mariko appeared in 2 of his films, Late Autumn and An Autumn Afternoon.
まず本を皆さんに与えて、そして本読みという日がありまして、そこへ集まる。で普通本読みというのは各俳優さんがそれぞれ読むんですけれども、小津組の場合は小津さんがご自分で全部読まれるんです。っていうか全部演技をなさるわけですね。紳士から私の役まで。そしてそのようにやらないとダメなんです。 OK が出ないんです。そういう本読みがあって本番に入るんですけれども、ここはこう動いちゃいけないっていう制約がいっぱいあるんですよ。でその中で自分がいかに自由に演技をできるかっていうことが勝負だったと思います、俳優の。
何膨れてんのよ。行きたきゃ行ったらいいじゃないの。ゴルフしちゃいけないって言ってやしないのよ。何さ子供みたいに。早く自分の好きなものを買えるような身分になりゃいいじゃないの。ノーコメントか。
Ozu shared his beliefs about acting in a magazine article published in 1947.
It's not enough to be good at facial expression. You have to understand the character. Lots of actors try to express emotions without grasping the character. That's why we have actors who are only good at making faces. This might sound extreme, but I believe facial expressions can harm the way an actor shows personality.
ですからやっぱり一番演技の素晴らしいのはお能ですよね。ですからお能の演技が最高だということですから。
No is a form of Japanese dramatic art that dates back to the 14th century. The actors are trained to express emotions while wearing a mask.
例えばこの中をしなくてもそういう感じが出てればいいわけです。だからそのためには役をよく飲み込んで理解してお腹の底から表現しないとダメっていうことだ。
Okada spoke about what it was like to be on set with Ozu.
別に怖くはないんですけどね、なんとなく雰囲気がシーンとしてると普通撮影所の撮影のスタッフっていうのはやかましいものなんですけどね、もう全然音がないんですよ。ライト一つ置くんでも静かにやってますので、もちろん無駄口を聞く人はいないし、一つ一つ全部になんかこだわりを持って作っていられたような気がしますね。
Ozu was particular about even a single inconspicuous prop. He made everything in his film exactly as he imagined.
例えば夜の、飲み屋街の、シーンがありますけども、そこの外景には、通りの右や左からいろんなこう、バーや飲み屋の看板が、突き出てますけれども、全て小津自身がデザインしています。で、色合いとかそういうのも全部考えて。 オズワルド・スパイそういうようなところまで自らコントロールして映画を作っていたということは他の監督は普通しないことだと思うんですよね。それはとても興味深い事実だと思いました。
After the war, Ozu slowed his pace to about one film per year. He instead spent time perfecting his scripts. Each one took several months. During that time, he would live with his longtime screenwriter, Noda Kogo. They would spend their days drinking and talking about the film. Ozu's notebooks from the period offer a glimpse into his process. He started with the storyline. After that was finished, he moved on to the structure of the film. Then he worked on the dialogue, carefully editing the lines to suit each character. Once the script was finished, he drew the storyboards. Ozu had the complete film in his head before he even started filming.
やっぱりこう脚本を書いてる時はこのまあセリフの言い渡しとかそういうもんじゃないし、やっぱりそれが絵になってね頭の中にあるわけですわ。ですからなんと脚本書いた時にもう僕の中には一つのこの映画が絵としてあるわけですね。それにこの材料を集めて自分の頭の中にあるイリュージョンにいかに近づけようかと振ることが、まあ、監督術ですわね。ですからね、どっちかっていやイリュージョンが純粋だっていう点じゃシナリオを書き上がった時の方が愉快ですね。
Ozu wrote many of his screenplays at the Chigasaki-kan, a small inn outside Tokyo. It hasn't changed much since he was there in the early 50s. Suo Masayuki has directed many popular films, including Shall We Dance and A Terminal Trust.
3部屋あるんですけど、まあ本当に2番という部屋が使ってたわけですね。
He visited the room where Ozu used to stay.
本当に小さい8畳間の部屋、それから窓辺の椅子テーブルの形なんですけども。
映画のフレームの中にフレーム作ってますもんね。
そうですね。
小津作品のこれが好きっていう言い方はあんまりしたくないなと思ってて、もう全部好きっていう感じだったんですよね。これは失敗作でこれは成功作でなんていうのはあんま思ってなくて、もう一続きの映画になって、それはサイレント時代からなんかずっと一続きのものとして遺作っていうけど全部が所蔵作で全部が遺作のような感じだから全然違うんですよね。他の監督と比べられないっていうのがハマっちゃったっていうことの一つ。本当に唯一無二じゃないですか。なんか特に戦後の小津作品はどのワンカットを見せられても多分それは見たことない小津作品だとこれ小津さんでしょって言えそうなぐらい、そんなワンカット見ただけで誰の作品か分かるなんて映画はそうそうないと思うんですよね。
ここか東京のどの辺でしゃ。
橋の方よ。
そうでしょうな。だいぶ自動車で遠いかったですけの。もっと賑やかなとこか思うとった。
ここか。
へえ。
光一ももっと賑やかなとこへ出たい言うとったけれど、そうもいかんのじゃろう。なあ。
当に間ですよね、編集の間。そのセリフ終わりを何個も開けるとか、俳句でも何でも詩でも何でもそうですけど、要するにどこでその単語を区切って、次行替えしてで何行かあえて空白作ってとかっていうふうに、それに近いんじゃないかって。
Ozu once wrote about the similarities between haiku and film.
A haiku is a poem that depicts an image or scene with just 17 syllables, but still manages to expand the imagination and leave a lingering impression. I think movies are like haiku, in that they summarize a long story in less than 2 hours and project it on screen.
あのスタイルの中で思いを込めることでいろんな情景が広がったり気持ちが伝わったりする。なんか本当芸術だよなって、一つのなんか自分の中の映画のスタイルをこう作り上げるって形の芸術をやっぱり成し遂げたっていうのは、いやすごいな、こんなことできないだろうっていう。
A book series examining Ozu's approach to filmmaking was published in the late 1980s and early 90s. Its focus was to uncover more about Ozu's life in order to get a better understanding of his films. The editor was cultural historian Tanaka Masasumi. He spent years combing through Ozu's diaries, letters, and other documents.
田中正純さんという人は、人知れず国会図書館であるとかさまざまなところへ行って文献を、少量し調べ上げ、それを非常に重要な、今ではオズ研究のベースとなるような基礎文献をお作りになった。その、仕事というのは今でも非常に大きな影響力を持っていると思います。例えば小津安二郎は、1930年代の後半に、兵士として中国大陸に、動員されています。その時のことがどのようなものだったのかとか、逆に言うとそういう画面研究では捕まえようのない小津安二郎自身への探求というものがやはり、どうしても必要になる。その部分を地道な努力でなさっていた方です。
In 1937, Ozu fought on the front line of the Second Sino-Japanese War. In Tanaka's words, documents from that time show that Ozu was faced with the cruelty of war. Tanaka found texts that suggest filmmaking was always on Ozu's mind, even when he was on the battlefield.
I was crawling on the ground when a mortar shell exploded near some apricot trees in front of me. The sound of apricots falling was very pleasant. Some of the trees had white blossoms that shed petals beautifully. I wish I could have filmed that scene.
The Chigasaki City Museum of Art held an exhibition on Ozu in 2023. Professor Tsukiyama Hideo provided many of the materials that were on display. He collects Ozu artifacts and has items related to the director's experiences on the battlefield.
これは小津監督が戦地で撮った、写真であったり、それがほとんど残っておりません。ということで、こちらにあるその、写真は、今まで全く公開されなかったものですね。
Ozu took this photograph inside his barracks. Light shines through a window and onto a lamp on the floor. Ozu had been given permission to take his favorite camera with him to the front.
これは本当に、驚きの資料ですが、小津監督が戦争に行っておられた時に、お母様の浅江さんが雑誌だとか新聞を切り抜いて撮っておかれたものです。
The clippings were among items entrusted to Tsukiyama by Ozu's family. Ozu was already a well-known filmmaker when he went to war, and his experiences on the front were reported on by the press. One article even covered his mother's practice of clipping articles that mentioned her son.
戦争に行ったことで戦後の映画も大きく変わったというふうに思います。全く変わらないとかって言いながらも大きく変わってきてるんだろうなと思います。
Ozu wrote to his friends back home about what he saw on the battlefield.
One of our guys, a monk, was hit in the head. His brain and blood started pouring out and he died on the spot without saying a word. A pharmacist was shot in the arm and his bone shattered. The dead were cremated and the wounded were sent to hospitals. We have fewer soldiers now.
Every day, soldiers marching across the sweeping wheat fields of China, without knowing when this would end. The despairing image became synonymous with the war. Wheat and Soldiers, a novel written in the form of a soldier's diary. The author is Hino Ashihei, who served in the army at the same time as Ozu. The book shaped many people's ideas about the war. Ozu's Early Summer was released in 1951, 6 years after the war. Wheat and Soldiers is mentioned in a pivotal scene where Noriko, played by Hara Setsuko, bonds with Kenkichi, a close friend of her brother who was killed in the war.
昔学生時分、よく庄司君と来たんですよ、ここへ。
そう。よく喧嘩もしたけど、私お兄さんとても好きだった。
あ、庄司君の手紙があるんです。助手さんの時向こうから来た軍事郵便で、中に麦の方が入ってたんです。その時分僕はちょうど麦と兵隊読んでて。
その手紙いただけない？
あ、あげますよ。あげようと思ってたんだ。
Hirayama Shukichi wrote a book that examines the relationship between Ozu's work and the war.
亡くなった兄のお兄さんの一番親しかった友達が麦の兵隊の話をした時に気持ちがふっと変わるわけですよね。そこでやっぱり自分のまあ兄つって死者たちって言った方がいいと思うんですが、死者たちを思い出して、死者たちと、共に生きると変ですけれども、死者たちのことをずっと思い出しながら生きていこうという選択をしているんだと思うんですよね。
The final scene of Early Summer is one of the few times Ozu uses a moving shot. He shows the vast wheat fields stretching into the distance.
.そのやっぱ麦に意味があるっていうことは、それはやっぱりある程度皆さん気づくわけですよね。小津安二郎が一緒に戦って、 戦死しちゃった自分の戦友とかに捧げるために作った映画なんだなということがなんかだんだんはっきりしてきまして。
In March 2023, Hirayama published a book challenging existing interpretations about Ozu's films. In it, he examines Ozu's relationships with Yamanaka Sadao, a director who served in China at the same time as him, and Hara Setsuko, who starred in 6 of his post-war films. Yamanaka was an up-and-coming director in the 1930s. He had made samurai films for a studio in Kyoto and was considered a promising talent. He greatly admired Ozu, who likewise held Yamanaka's talent in high regard. According to Ozu's diary, Yamanaka once traveled all the way from Kyoto to visit him in Tokyo. In 1936, Yamanaka discovered an unknown 15-year-old by the name of Hara Setsuko and cast her in his film, Priest of Darkness. Hara's performance landed her a role in a Japanese-German co-production titled The New Earth the following year. This film launched her into major stardom. In July of that year, the Marco Polo Bridge incident triggered the start of the Second Sino-Japanese War. Yamanaka quickly received his draft notice, and shortly after, so did Ozu. They were 2 of the handful of active filmmakers sent to fight. After a year on the front, Yamanaka fell ill and died. He was 28 years old. Ozu reflected on his friend's death in his diary.
It can't be helped, but I've lost someone I will miss so much, and whose death is hard to accept.
Yamanaka's death had a profound effect on Ozu's generation of Japanese filmmakers. The Museum of Kyoto preserves documents related to Yamanaka, including a diary he kept in China. Hirayama says there's one entry that Yamanaka clearly wrote with Hara Setsuko on his mind.
We arrived at Shijiazhuang on the 27th. The new earth here is dusty and hard to walk on.
普通に読むと単なる描写なんですけれども、この新しき土はおそらくその、日独合作映画で原節子が世界的に有名になった新しき土を指してるんじゃないかなと。別に山中が鳴滝組の映画監督たちに送った手紙があるんですよね。それを見ていくとほとんど同じ文面が出てきて、でこの辺りの新しき土はっていうところでここに棒点が振ってあるんですよね。新しき土だからこれはここを注目してくださいということなんですよね。これは単にその中国の風土のことを言ってるんじゃなくて、それはおそらく原節子のことを指してるんだろうなというふうに僕は思ったんですね。
In 1949, 4 years after the war, Ozu chose Kyoto as the setting for a new film. Late Spring was his first collaboration with Hara Setsuko. It tells the story of a woman who lives with her father, a widower. He is trying to convince her to leave and get married. Ryoanji Temple features prominently in one scene. The father, played by Ryu Chishu, has just told his daughter that he plans to remarry, a lie that persuades her to finally leave home. He reflects on fatherhood with a friend.
持つんならやっぱり男の子だね。女の子はつまらんよ。せっかく育てると嫁にやるんだから。
Hirayama believes he knows why Ozu chose to film the scene at this temple.
龍州と三島正夫がここで龍安寺で石庭の前でしみじみと語り合うというので、ちょっと京都の観光っぽいなというふうな目で見てたんですけれども、そこにちょっと違った観点を入れてくると全然ここの風景同じ風景なんですけれども違った観点で見ると違って見えてくると。ここのすぐそばになんか清源院というお寺さんがあるそうなんです。そこは山中貞夫が20歳頃ですね、まだ映画界に入って助監督兼シナリオライターみたいな使いっ走りをしている頃に、ここのその清源院というところで、部屋を借りてそこでシナリオ修行をした場所なんですね。そのことをに僕は気づくと同時に、そうすると「晩春」という映画はで京都を扱うっていうことは山中貞夫のことをすごく思い出す、要は山中貞夫を意識して作ってる映画なんではないかな。
In 1935, Yamanaka made a film called Tangei Sazen and the Pot Worth a Million Ryo. Hirayama says the most iconic scene in Late Spring features a direct reference to the film. The father and daughter are staying at an inn in Kyoto. Their room has a vase, similar to the pot in Yamanaka's movie.
置かれた壺が長々と映されるというシーンがあるんですけど、あのシーンは何なんだろうっていうことは皆さん不思議に思っていろんな解釈があるんですけれども、僕なりに気がついたことは、あの壺はひょっとするとその丹下左膳の映画の100万両の壺、この壺っていうことを非常に単純素朴なんですけれどもということで壺があるんじゃないかなと。で壺は山中なんじゃないかなというふうに思っているんですよね。
Hirayama says that when Ozu turns his camera on Hara Setsuko, he is also turning it on his old friend Yamanaka Sadao.
小津監督が戦後晩春以降原節子を起用する、迎えると言っている、迎えるっていうのは単なる一女優さんを迎えたということだけではなくて、その原節子の中にはその山中貞夫が女優としてこれから自分の映画で出てもらおうと思ってた原節子、あるいはもう少しプライベートに好きだった原節子 みたいなものの存在として北原節子っていうのはいて。
Ozu made 6 films with Hara Setsuko. He never spoke about the relationship between Hara and Yamanaka and how it influenced his films.
まあ語らなかったってことが重要なんだと思います。語らなかったからフィルムに残せるというものがきっとあるんだろうなと。ほんでそれがこう見てるもののうずきみたいなものとして言葉にならないものとして残されて、それで何なんだろうというふうに後を引いていくみたいなもので、僕の見方も単なる一人の見方であって、また別の見方はいくらでも反対にあるし、許容されるような映画として、オズの映画って作られてると思うんですよね。
December 12th, 1963. 25 years after Yamanaka's death, Ozu Yasujiro dies on his 60th birthday. He never married. 60 years on, the dialogue continues between Ozu's films and his acolytes.
To me, too, he is a mysterious man. He was an elegant man, tall, elegant man, secretive. Not much is known about his private life. There is the story that the love of his life was Setsuko Hara, and for some reason they couldn't live their love for each other. Maybe it's myth, maybe it's a legend. I always believed the story because I thought Setsuko Hara is the most beautiful actress in film history for me. The way he wrote the films is still a mystery to me. The way he lived, very much alone, for a long time also with his mother. In a strange way, I sometimes feel he lived like a monk. With a nice appetite for a sake every now and then, and for cigarettes.
Wenders released his newest work, Perfect Days, in 2023. It portrays the daily life of a janitor named Hirayama. He lives in an old apartment and spends his days cleaning public bathrooms. He does the same things every day, and yet no 2 days are the same. Yakusho Koji won the Best Actor Award at the Cannes International Film Festival for the performance.
Well, there is a reason why Koji Yakusho's character is called Hirayama. Hirayama was the name of the father, the central father character in Tokyo Monogatari. And in honor of that fabulous, beautiful, memorable character, one of the most beautiful characters in the whole history of cinema, because Tokyo Monogatari, in many lists of best movies of the world, is still #1 movie. So Hirayama is a very important character in film's history. So we loan the name for our character. So the fact that he is called Hirayama is a big nod towards Tokyo Monogatari. And I think in many ways this character is a tribute to Ozu's films and to the love for simple things and to the attention to nature, details.
Vietnamese-born, France-based filmmaker Tran Anh Hun is known for films such as The Scent of Blue Papaya and Norwegian Wood. He also spoke about Ozu's influence on his work at the Tokyo International Film Festival.
C'est dire que c'est aussi dans les films d'Ozu qu'on apprend à aimer toutes les saisons, qu'on apprend à apprécier à chaque moment de son âge. Voilà, et il y a une espèce d'acceptation qui est très belle de la brutalité de la réalité. Et ça, j'aime beaucoup chez Ozu. Et pris avec beaucoup de douceur, cette acceptation du cycle de la vie. Moi, j'ai pris d'Ozu ce sentiment vague de l'existence que j'aime beaucoup produire dans mes films.
Tran On Hun's newest film is set in France at the end of the 19th century. It portrays the romance between a gourmet and a chef. The relationship is based on their shared passion for food.
Nous sommes à l'automne de notre vie, vous dites. Parlez pour vous. Je me sens en plein été. Et quand je partirai, ce sera encore l'été. J'aime l'été.
Comprends tout à fait l'admiration que beaucoup de cinéastes ont pour Ozu, parce que, comme je l'ai dit, il a réussi vraiment à avoir un cadre extrêmement étroit des outils cinématographiques pour exprimer des choses très très profondes. C'est comme si, pour parvenir à une certaine profondeur de l'âme humaine, il fallait simplifier énormément de choses. Et ça, Ozu est extraordinaire pour ça.
120 years since Ozu was born, and 60 years since his death. How would he perceive the world today?
The entire character of the family is changing, and we have families today of two fathers or two mothers, and there are the whole role models of fathers and mothers are changing, and children are growing up into a world that is really so much more dangerous than Ozu ever depicted. To now, 60 years later, if he was still working, I think he would show very different families. He would show families in trouble. He would show children in trouble. He would show very different children today, because he was always truthful. Truth is the biggest thing written in capital letters about his characters.